When I was in college, I lived alone in a 2-bedroom, ground-floor apartment. One night, I was reading a new book when my friend called. She invited me over, which had become a summer routine. I typically left around 10 p.m. and returned home around 3 a.m. almost every night. I placed the book on my headboard, which had a small window above my bed where I could set objects. When I returned around 3 a.m., my friend called to make sure I got home safely. We chatted as I unlocked the door and walked into my room. I noticed that my headboard had fallen off and knocked over a decorative jar on my nightstand. It wasn't a disaster, it was just on the floor, leaning against my bed. The jar had spilled trinkets everywhere. Nothing seemed odd, but then I realized my book was missing. If the headboard fell, wouldn't the book be on my bed or the floor? I started feeling that something wasn't right. I looked around the room again. The headboard was screwed to the nightstand behind the bed, but it sat under the window. I turned and realized that my window had been closed. I started to panic. I had valuables in my room, so I checked to see if everything was in place. I opened my nightstand, which had an envelope with cash inside. To my horror, there was my book, right on top of the money. Someone had been, or was still, in my apartment, and they wanted me to know they were there. Still not fully believing what was happening, I told my friend I would call her back and then hung up. I turned to my dresser and noticed that the top underwear drawer was slightly open. I pulled it open and saw that someone had gone through it. But my laptop, TV, and money were still there. I must be going crazy, right? I ran to my closet. The top shelf where I had organized my purses in a specific order had been rearranged. They were intentionally moved for me to tell the difference. It was then that I realized something was really missing. A camera I had left in one of my purses that had numerous pictures of me. I opened another drawer and saw that a small bag containing some pretty necklaces was also missing. I called my friend and explained what was happening. She said something that terrified me.
"What about the other bedroom?"
My heart dropped. I thought that whoever had been in my room was now in the empty bedroom waiting for me. I screamed and ran out of my apartment as fast as I could, got to my car, and called the police. They arrived within minutes and searched the apartment before letting me back in with them. As they questioned me about what had happened, it all started to make sense. Remember when I mentioned leaving and returning at the same time every night? Well, someone was watching me and learning my routine, so when they decided to attack, they could take their time without getting caught. They climbed through my bedroom window, breaking the headboard and knocking over the jar. Then they meticulously moved my book, went through my underwear, rearranged the purses, probably to mess with my mind, and took the camera and necklaces. Finally, they climbed back up through the window and even closed it behind them. The police explained that this person had been stalking me. The one thing they told me that I'll never forget: you can't ever let your guard down, because there may come a time when they come back. I had just started my first semester of college, and we had a competition coming up. It was a short film competition, and my roommates and I decided we were going to make a film about illegal street racing. Since illegal street racing always happens at night, we had to stay at a friend's house to wait until midnight when we could start shooting. My friend who was leading the project told everyone he had police permission and that it was all clear. So we called the local racers and started shooting. But just as we were wrapping up the first scene, the cops showed up. I was surprised since I thought we were in the clear, but then my friend told me he didn't really get permission, so we had to bolt. Everyone got on their bikes and split up. As we were running away from the cops, they caught all my friends, leaving me alone with the racers. I didn't know what to do, and this area was deadly at night. One guy took me to a hideout and asked me to stay there while he went to the police station. I was all alone in an area known for murderers and thieves. It was 2:30 a.m. when he came back. He brought a friend of his, and we all had to sit there waiting for dawn so I could go to the police station. Those 4 hours were the scariest I've ever experienced. I almost thought about running away, but then sunrise came. As we got to the police station, the racer dropped me off, and I saw my friends coming out. That's when my friends dropped the bombshell. The guys I just spent the night with were wanted killers. The guy I had just been in the car with was wanted dead by rival gangs, and if I'd been caught, I probably would have been killed along with him. Looking back, it gives me the chills to think that I came close to death. I had a roommate in college who was a very sweet and religious girl. This was the first year I didn't seem to have a disgusting roommate, so I was excited to get along with her. About 2 nights after we moved in, I'm woken up to the sound of someone sobbing softly outside my bedroom door. It was a very weird sound, this kind of desperate, creaky sobbing. I was so scared at first because it sounded like something you hear in horror movies. I heard movement around the apartment, and occasionally there was scratching at the door. My roommate was walking around the apartment, crying. I thought she was sleepwalking because her eyes were closed, but when I opened the door, her head turned to look right at me. Then she slowly made her way to the kitchen table, picked up a pencil, and started to scrawl this weird symbol on her door. It looked like a circle with a triangle in it. I asked her if she was okay, but she just stood there, swaying and crying. I thought to myself, nope, and locked my bedroom door. The next morning she seemed scared and was mad at me because this demon symbol had appeared on her door. She thought I had done it to prank her. She didn't believe me when I told her she was the one who did it, but she accepted my denial, and we dropped it. This happened several more times throughout the year. I'd wake up in the middle of the night to sounds of her in the kitchen talking to herself. Every time she would come and scratch on my door, and every morning there would be another symbol on her door. She was still convinced it was me messing with her. I considered filming her, but honestly, I was really scared of opening the door. I watched too many scary movies about demons, and I wasn't going to take that chance. Then, one time, we were in our separate dorm rooms when we heard a huge bang coming from her bathroom. There was obviously no one else in the dorm, so we were both really freaked out. We looked everywhere, and nothing had fallen down, and there were no windows or doors to the bathroom other than the one leading to our living room. We pulled back the shower curtain, and there was a huge arc of blood on the wall. Later that night, while I was studying, she rushed into my room and wanted to know what I had said. I asked her what she was talking about, and she said she was in the bathroom and heard me talking to her like I was whispering something through the wall. After that, whenever she was gone for the weekend, I would hear strange noises in the middle of the night coming from her side of the dorm. She moved out at the end of the year, and there were no more strange occurrences, but I've always wondered what that was all about.